Sri Lanka has fallen. It's facing its worst economic crisis. Their currency has crashed. Their people are struggling. Food shortages, power cuts, medicine shortage, and even school exams has to be cancelled because they just can't afford to buy paper. And after a violent protest from the people, their president, who was once hailed a hero, had to flee the nation. And that's how much of a mess they are in. Since then, some experts has pointed out,
what happened to Sri Lanka should be a warning to many Asian nations.
Wait, you're not talking about Malaysia, right? Could Malaysia become the next Sri Lanka?
The government's debt now stands at 1.045 trillion ringgit, or 63.8% of the GDP as of June this year.
Hutang keseluruhan kerajaan persekutuan setakat Disember 2021 berjumlah 979.8 bilion ringgit, kata Timbalan Menteri Kewangan Kedua Muhammad Shahar Abdullah.
And increasing in public debt. On social media that Malaysia is about to become a bankrupt nation. Will Malaysia goes bankrupt?
Malaysia going bankrupt just like Sri Lanka? See this Malaysia debt counter.
Assalamualaikum and hi, you are with me, Aina Nasha, and today I am your host.
Debt is used by the government for expenditures that will eventually generate productivity and stimulate economy. Public debt happens when a government securities holding are insufficient to back past spending shortage. However, after a certain threshold value, public debt will result in adverse impacts on economic growth. From a macroeconomic theory perspective, if the expenditures are utilized in productive sectors such as healthcare, education, and nutrition, a government debt to fund expenditure will give a positive impact on economic growth.
The Public Accounts Committee expressed concern over the significant increase in the national debt level, which has now reached 979.814 billion ringgit, or 63.4% of the total gross domestic product.
According to the 2021 Federal Government Financial Statement, the federal debt position in 2021 was 979,840 million ringgit, which is an increase of 100,254 million ringgit, or 11.40% compared to 879,560 million ringgit in 2020.
As we heard today, there are many perspectives and views related to the debt situation in Malaysia. Therefore, today we bring an expert to discuss this issue.
Based on the Act, the regulatory, for example, Finance Ministry or Bank Negara Malaysia, you will see that they have a certain regulation how to determine. Okay, but if you read my paper in terms of the public debt theoretically or theory perspective, saying that you should have a certain threshold. Normally, we have threshold of 60% of that. But if you read some articles, recently due to the pandemic, the government revised the act to give more buffer of 65% of debt. Total GDP. Based on the statement from regulatory, the situation is still under control. But then if you're talking about the global situation, globally most of the countries, especially like Malaysia, where we depends on the open market, okay, so we might affected by global crisis also.
There are some views that say that the country's debt situation is in a critical state. Some even say that Malaysia will receive the same fate as Sri Lanka, which has been declared bankrupt when it fails to pay all foreign debts. Let's have an expert view on this issue.
Actually, it's quite prominent to say that we have a lot of borrowing. Malaysia is one of the most bond market borrowing issuer. So that is a kind of long-term borrowing. The government need to guarantee that this debt will be paid by the government. Technically, to get money you have to borrow, but then how you spend is more important. Okay, whether you are spending to something which can create production and increase your GDP, or you only just spending for non-productive expenditure. Sometimes they have to spend for non-productive expenditure to stimulate the economy. In terms of government debt or spending, usually they focus more on the productive spending to generate more output or GDP.
The situation of debt will have a significant impact in various aspects. It may be worse and it may be good. Therefore, today we provide a detailed review from experts on the impact of debt on the national economy. Let's see what our expert says.
If you refer to certain articles claimed by Ministry of Finance, he stated that we are still below the threshold that is 60%. But then, if we see the pattern, Malaysia are having increasing total debt over GDP. We can discuss in terms of short term or long term. Short term, I would say that because the government need to adjust the policy, especially the public policy, due to our pandemic last time. So they have no choice but have to spend to support especially Malaysian, okay, or society to keep on going with their activities. If you notice that the production after the recovery, we can see that the increment is at the decreasing rate because Malaysia is really highly dependent, okay, from foreign markets for their input to produce and also to export. And you also notice that early this year, okay, the ringgit Malaysia is badly affected, and against USD, the value of ringgit is really depreciate. So technically, if you are talking about debt, you have to serve the debt. Okay, if you are talking about the foreign debt, you are borrowing using the foreign debt, USD, US dollar. So you need to pay in terms of US dollar. So the depreciation of ringgit also affecting the actual value, the real value of our debt. For Malaysia is still favorable, but then the regulatory need to be very careful in terms of way forward. Okay, because if you notice, government debt must be served by future generation. In case the government not able to pay, the future generation might have to pay, for example, higher tax.
We can see that when issues related to debt are raised, it is often met with different views and perspectives from the people regarding that matter. However, is that true? Do the people really know about this issue? Let's ask them.
Cik sedar tak yang kerajaan Malaysia mempunyai hutang?
Kalau ikutkan dengan cerita, iyalah kan, tapi kebanyakannya yang tahu, tapi kan terdengar dasar dengar je lah. Nak kata 100% tahu tu tak lah. Sudah.
Ya betul. Negara semua orang tahu lah. Cumanya sama ada dia take serius atau tidak.
Ekonomi lah. Okay. Maknanya rakyat dibebankan dengan ekonomi lah sekarang ni, mana masalah ya, kehidupan sekarang kan. Jadi satu kebimbangan lah pada semua rakyat.
And we should have beasiswa yang percuma, pelajaran yang percuma dan also medical percuma sepatutnya lah. Tapi yalah, when it comes to hutan negara, kita kena limitkan benda tu lah. And although that negara kita ada banyak hutang, we still living in the comfortable way lah kan.
In hutang, biasanya hutang ni kan kerajaan yang buat kan. Jadi bila kerajaan yang berhutang kepada luar, then dia biasanya mereka akan push kepada rakyat lah sebenarnya. So impact kepada negara ni, kos hidup akan naik lah. Mesti kos hidup naik. Contoh macam kita nampak dulu waktu diorang applykan GST. So GST banyak yang kena kepada rakyat lah. Sebab kita sebagai rakyat ni, kita tak boleh nak, contoh macam businessman, dia boleh claim balik tau GST tu. Dia beli barang and then dia boleh claim balik. Dia adalah cara-cara dia semua. Tapi kalau rakyat ni kita nak claim balik, itu memang 100% kita yang kena tanggung kos tu. So government akan dapat duit tu and then dengan duit tu lah dia akan rolling balik untuk bayar hutang ke atau apa benda. Banyak government berhutang ataupun kerajaan berhutang dan kemungkinan besar akan berlaku inflasi lah kat situ.
Sebab akan ambil loan kan, macam orang yang nak beli kereta, dia punya interest makin naik, rumah interest makin naik. So benda tu sangat efek untuk orang yang baru nak beli semua benda ni lah. Macam especially kita orang lah, sebab kita baru bekerja semua kan. So kalau tanya, tahu tak? Tahu. Memang tahu. Tapi kita pun tak tahu macam mana nak decreasekan benda ni kan. Macam mana nak kurangkan hutang negara ni.
As stated by the expert, Malaysia's current debt situation is not critical and still under control.
Tengku Datuk Sri Zafrul Abdul Aziz, the former finance minister, stated that the level of the national debt is still manageable and the possibility of Malaysia going bankrupt like Sri Lanka is very low. This is due to the country's economy is stronger. Furthermore, the International Monetary Fund is said to have never reported that Malaysia will face economic problems. Instead, they express confidence that the gross domestic product in 2022 will grow at a rate of 5.75%. Tengku Datuk Sri Zafrul also stated that the level of the country's ability to increase debt is limited. This is because it does not depend solely on the ratio of debt to GDP, but there are also other factors such as debt affordability and debt sustainability.
The COVID-19 pandemic tsunami is one of the causes of the increase in the amount of Malaysia's debt, which is not only happening in Malaysia.
The government is said to need to make a larger loans in 2021 following the commitment to ensure the stability of the people and the national economy. According to the finance minister at the time, stated that the loan was done to implement a stimulus package and economic recovery plan to protect people's lives, support businesses and preserve the economy. It is said that the total amount of gross loan made by the federal government from January to 13 August 2021 is as much as 141.3 billion ringgit. However, Juai IQI's chief global economist Shan Said said that after the era of COVID-19, the Malaysian government has arranged strategic measures to overcome the challenges of global economic weakness that has never happened before with a unique combination of infrastructure development and public finance strategy. The level of government debt is said by him to be safe and it is decreasing from the threshold level. Furthermore, investors now have strong confidence in the country and it continues to attract FDI into the country.
Hence, this situation shows that the rumor that Malaysia will suffer the same fate as Sri Lanka is untrue. We have reached the end of the documentary. I am Aina Nasha. Goodbye and Assalamualaikum.